Join Gator great Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got JC today. We got a lot to talk about: college football, National Football League, you name it. We will talk about it today. Programming note: the only shows this week will be today and Friday. Got too much going on. Everybody enjoy your break. We all need a break.
There you go.
JC, you're on the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. What's happening?
Well, I'm down here in the Magnolia State on the coast, looking at from the east. I see the Harris Casino and the Golden Nugget on Beach Boulevard in Biloxi. It's a beautiful scene. And to the west, we have Gulfport and everything else. And so being here for the holiday is nice, and then back to Gainesville during the week. So, QB, I'm a traveling guy for the holidays, and got all my shopping done. Happy to do that finally. And, I watched, as you did, the college football playoff this weekend. I think it's pretty much, I guess, what we could have expected, with the games being home team covers and blowouts for the most part. It seemed like the Clemson-Texas game was closer than the score in many ways, but Texas just showed that they have too many athletes. And in terms of having too much for the other team, Penn State, Ohio State, and of course Notre Dame was simply overwhelming their teams that they played. And QB, it was so obvious to me the difference in talent some of these teams had, as to, like, for example, the way Ohio State embarrassed Tennessee on the line of scrimmage, and the way that Texas just ran past Clemson with their speed. It's just so obvious to me that now we're going to get to the teams that I think will have a chance to win it all, finally.
Yeah. Before we get to the playoffs and thoughts on that, Gators' good win against Tulane.
Oh, yeah.
It was great to see my man Katie Daniels, who I think is a phenomenal running back, get some playing time. And it was great to see Marco Rubio's son score a touchdown. That kind of stuff excites me when walk-ons can get into the game. I will say this, and I even said it on the air, and I don't know if I was supposed to say on the air, but who cares? Tulane's quarterback, who was a five-star, who signed with Oregon out of high school, which Oregon usually signs pretty good players.
Yeah.
He is clearly the worst college quarterback I have seen at any level. Not from just throw. First of all, he can't throw the football very well at all. Yeah. Secondly, he can't even do the run game. They called a couple of zone reads. He read it incorrectly every time. They called just a quarterback lead. He didn't follow his blockers. He bounced it outside, which had no chance because we set the edge nicely. But anyway, it was a good win. Gators have a lot of momentum. Dallas Wilson is signed with the Gators, the highly recruited kid that signed with Oregon, backed out. So Josh's question on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. With the addition of Wilson and some of the other young receivers, do you think they go 4 and 5 wides? I do not. No, it will not happen. It will not happen. So it was a good win for the Gators heading into the off season. DJ was your MVP, deserved it, played well, had some miscues here and there, but that's part of football. They got a lot to build on moving forward. Okay, so my thoughts about the playoffs. All right, JC, you're very aware. I have some stats here for our loyal listeners. I get it, because we have people that did not like the games. I enjoyed the games. I don't care if they're blowouts or not. So here's a few stats for people. Last year's NFL playoffs first round, the average margin of victory was 17.3 points. The first round of the college football playoffs this year, the average margin of victory is 19.2. So it's really no difference. Okay. In the 10 years of the 14 playoff, 10 years we've been doing this before this year, the semifinals were decided by an average of 15.8 points a game. And those were on neutral sites. Think about that. It was on a neutral site.
Yeah.
So there is nothing is different than what happened this past weekend in the first round than what's happened even when we only picked 4. Nothing, quite honestly. I loved it. I love the on-campus. It was great. It was great to see Tennessee fans show up with 30 or 40,000, however many, and then they got blasted. I don't know why you and I sat here and thought those morons had a chance to win the game.
Yeah.
I saw them in person.
Yeah, you did.
The quarterback is terrible. He's terrible. I don't know what I was thinking.
Right. QB, you're dead on. That is absolutely right. I think we've got 8 teams now that will give us better games, but you're 100% about all that. I do think the one thing that some people may have problems squaring with is that in the NFL, you play into the playoffs. In this deal, you're picked to be in the playoffs unless you win a conference. But I see what your point is. It does make sense to me, and I do think we'll have better games going forward with the 8 that are left. And how nice would it be if the teams that had the bye week and didn't play this weekend would also have a home game? Why can't we have a game at Georgia? Why can't we have a game at Oregon? And it's all to do with the bowls. Okay, great. Well, you know what? Play the game in Athens, Georgia, and call it the Sugar Bowl if you have to. I don't care. We can figure something else out. But those teams that didn't play should also have that opportunity that Ohio State had, that Notre Dame had, that Penn State had. And I think that it did add a lot to the feel of the playoffs, and it was deserved that they would have those home games because they were seeded higher and had better record, or they were better. And clearly they were better. And it wasn't just the home field that won those games, but it was great seeing Tennessee fans at Ohio State. And it was a good environment and atmosphere. So it was definitely a great experience, I think, for everyone except those teams who got blown out. They didn't have fun. And the poor SMU boosters who got to Penn State late and saw their team down 4 touchdowns by the time they walked in, you know what? I can't feel too sorry for them because, you know, they flew private to get there. So they didn't have to drive from Harrisburg International or Philadelphia or Pittsburgh to get there like the rest of us did. They simply flew right into State College, sat there for 2 hours, and got right the hell out.
Yeah, and what's crazy is for people that probably did not even see that SMU game, look at the score like at the end of the first half and go, this is crazy. Where honestly, SMU should have been ahead at halftime.
They really did have opportunities to change the way that game was going to be played out. Absolutely. I mean, 4th and 1, and Lashley rolls right and throws the ball 20 yards downfield to a wide open guy. He could have run it maybe for a first down, but still, if they execute that play, QB, he's in the end zone and they're up 7-0, and it could change the whole complexion of the first half. I agree with that. Well, and I also think Tennessee hurt. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was 14-0, and Penn State had not scored an offensive touchdown.
Right. It could have been 7-0 SMU. It could have been, and should have been probably, if they just execute a simple little 20-yard pass. But, you didn't do it. And the quarterback, I think, was nervous. You could tell he was not comfortable the whole day. Penn State was all over him. And on the line of scrimmage is where I saw the biggest difference between these teams in many cases, especially with Ohio State and Tennessee. My God, we were supposed to believe that Tennessee on the line of scrimmage was this big juggernaut, and they got absolutely moved around by Ohio State. And Penn State did the same thing to SMU. So we're going to see much better games this weekend. Well, not this weekend, but when they play again, I guess, and in 10 days or 9 days or 8 days, and it'll be a lot of fun to watch on neutral sites, though. So, the Sugar Bowl will have the Georgia game, the Ohio State will be in the Rose Bowl, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, the biggest issue I have with the playoffs is they should have, once they picked, once they knew who the 12 teams were, they should have reseeded them, because there's no – Arizona State and Boise should not have gotten buys. I still can't figure out how that works, but they should have played round 1. If anybody should have got a bye, it should have been Texas and Penn State, quite honestly.
Well, they were conference winners in Texas and Penn State.
Or Ohio State.
Well, yeah, I know.
Right.
I mean, you say that, but these other teams won their goofy conferences. Boise with theirs and Mountain West,
Which is fine.
But
That's
yeah,
fine. They get in because you win your conference, but then you look and see, okay, let's rank them or reseed them, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Because anyway, that's my only problem. I have no. I want them to go to. I want them to go to 24 teams. I know people don't like it. You don't have to watch it, people. If you don't like it, don't watch it. I love watching it. I don't care what the score of the game is.
Well, then that would have to. That would be adding games. They'd have to do something with these conference championships, QB.
Yeah. So, but boy, Ohio State looked good for sure. All right, Brandon's question on Facebook Live brought to you by Melvin Law. What advice would you give DJ for picking up linebackers who drop into coverage? Look, he's going to throw interceptions, people. He struggles or has struggled with zone defense. When he hits his plays down the field, it's because it's man. You don't have to read and you don't have to worry about where your head position or seeing the entire field. Man coverage, what you want as a quarterback. You want to throw against man. It's one-on-one, right?
Yeah.
He'll be fine, though.
He will be fine.
The
whole team, QB. I mean, it was a feel-good day. It was a feel-good day, right? I mean, Tulane really had no business. And that quarterback, my God, it's almost as if he didn't practice the entire season. I mean,
JC,
yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
That kid, and I'm not, there's nothing wrong. I mean, it's not his fault, but he is clearly, and I only got to see him play one game. He was clearly in all the years I watched college football at any level, he cannot play. He cannot even play at the FCS level.
Yeah. He was so bad. Well, it's hard to believe he's on a Division I roster, but somehow he is.
It's hard to believe he was a 5-star that signed with the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just looked like he didn't have any clue what was going on out there.
He had none. And it's not so much he's not a good thrower, and just put that aside. But the run game, he had no clue of what he was supposed to do.
He didn't know. Now, why were you disallowed from saying that, and why did you have to give us a disclaimer before you stated the fact there? Or what,
well, I don't know if I'm allowed or not allowed, but I just said on air he's the worst college quarterback I've ever seen.
Okay, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Well, I don't know if you're supposed to bash the other team.
Well,
I don't know. It doesn't matter. The season's over. Over. And here's the great thing is a lot of people, our radio broadcast for some reason, a lot of people couldn't hear it around the country because something was going on with the app. So I don't know. I was getting a million texts during the game that the broadcast was not even on WRUF or Gator Country or anything. Don't know why.
Okay.
Anyway, Electronics World, integration and design specialist for smart home automation and entertainment, affordable local installation service and support. electronicsworld.net. JC, did you watch any NFL games yesterday?
Sure did. Yeah, I saw some of those, and I guess I'll start with the Redskins. The Commanders come back with a minute and a half left. Jaden Daniels just, obviously he's the rookie of the year, but he'll get some votes for MVP, even though he won't be. But he is definitely the rookie of the year, and that guy just did it again to him. The Eagles, that drive, I was listening to it on the radio. It was almost scripted, how precise and easy it was. The Commanders were clearly ready for that moment, and that gives them opportunity perhaps in the playoffs when they play again. And they may end up, if the playoffs started today, they would end up playing the Eagles as it would be. But there are 2 weeks left, and so there will be some reseeding or positioning. But if the playoffs started today, QB, your Eagles would play the Commanders, the Rams would play the Packers, the Falcons would play the Vikings, and the Lions would have the bye. And in the AFC, it would be Kansas City. And then Buffalo would play Denver, Pittsburgh, and LA. And Houston would play the Baltimore Ravens. But the games yesterday were pretty exciting. And that Washington game, I think, was most exciting. The Bucs really killed themselves last night, losing to Dallas. And it showed that, you can look great and like world beaters one week against the Chargers on the road. And then the next week you lose to the lowly Cowboys because you just can't get up or something just doesn't click. And that was surprising to me to see Tampa Bay ruin their positioning right now. And now they have to root for somebody to beat Atlanta because they would lose a tiebreaker against the Falcons in a playoff scenario for that division in the NFC South. So that was also something that I noticed. the Vikings had a big win against Seattle to stay tied basically with the Lions and waiting for that game in the final weekend of the season to see who gets the 1 seed and a playoff bye. So there's a lot going on in the NFL. The Rams won on the road. They are 8-2 since their break, or 7-2 since their off week when they started the season 1-4, and here they are leading the AFC West or NFC West. So I hated the Buffalo jerseys. They were wearing red against the Patriots. They actually looked like the Patriots wearing that red, the old Patriots.
Well, Patriots don't wear red.
Well, they used to. They used to wear red all the time. And they were playing the Patriots yesterday, and the Patriots were white on gray, and the Bills were red on white. And it's the first time I'd seen Buffalo in red, and they played like the Patriots.
No, they wear those once or twice a year. That's their alternate jersey.
Yeah, they wore that, but they won. They pulled it out, and the Steelers have now lost 2 straight, so they're reeling a little bit. Baltimore seems to have found their footing, and then I feel terrible about what happened to Tank Dell, breaking his leg on a touchdown play that he actually caught the ball, broke his leg on the play. It counted for a touchdown, and C.J. Stroud and the rest of the Texans were absolutely clearly affected by the horror of that, and they proceeded then to lose the game pretty handily. In their game. So I don't know. I just the NFL is going to figure out its playoff seedings here in the next 2 weeks, but there are some spots that are still up for grabs. Most notably, I think in the NFC South, with Atlanta and Tampa fighting that out to see who will go and who will stay home. And so that's how I saw it. But the Washington yesterday, pulling that game out against the Eagles, they had 5 turnovers. Five.
My question is, did you see the ending of that game?
No, I was driving.
How Washington got the ball.
I was driving.
So I'm watching the game, JC. I'm watching the games. It's 3rd down.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's 4th down.
4th
down. Devontae Smith drops a wide open pass to end the game. I mean, it was just a slant route.
Yeah. Yes.
The Eagles dropped it.
Kenny Pickett threw it. Yeah.
Your Alabama guy screwed the Eagles.
So shocking that he never drops passes. He never drops passes.
That's what they said. That's what they said on the telecast. Speaking of the Chiefs.
Oh man.
The Chiefs lost to the Raiders last year on Christmas Day, JC.
Yeah.
Since then, they are 19. Listen, they are 19-1 and have not scored more than 30 points in a game.
And they've probably won 10 of those 19 games have been one-score games, and they've won them all.
I know. But how about that stat? That's crazy.
It's like, how are you going to beat this team? Who's going to beat him? And for all he had a high ankle sprain. What a joke that was. If he had a high ankle sprain, he looked pretty good running around, Patrick Mahomes. Listen, Kansas City is clearly the class of the NFL, and they're going to probably have home field now. I think they just need one more win out of the last 2 games, or Buffalo loss out of the last 2 games, and that'll do it for the AFC. And who's going to go into Arrowhead? I mean, the only team I can see possibly going into Arrowhead would be if Baltimore or Buffalo, and they would have to have Hall of Fame games out of their quarterback to win that game. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. All right, real quick, Michael says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Farms, Shane, DJ threw over 30 times, and we always had a lead. I feel that if Billy only lets him throw 16 to 20 times a game, even with a strong running game, he'd be limiting his passing skill set. I think he just knew we were overmatched. We overmatched him. That's why we threw it that much. That's in my personal opinion. No, I just don't think we'll see that a lot. I hope we do, but I just don't. That's not his DNA. Tommy in Gainesville on the Titan MR text line says, can we at least get a special teams coach? We had a couple of special teams blunders, and I will say personally, it's because we had a lot of guys out. So new guys playing those spots. That's no excuse. It goes on the coaches, but it goes on the players as well. Because what people don't realize is you sit in hours and hours of meetings. You have walkthroughs. You have practice. So if JC knows he is the left guard on field goal team, and you have never been the left guard, you've been the backup, it's your responsibility to get your ass out there when it's field goal team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's the coaches. So for the most part, Tommy, I hear what you're saying, but special teams has been phenomenal this year, quite honestly.
Much better than previous years.
No, it was. I'd give it an A+ all year long.
Well, it's good that they got that figured out. And listen, I mean, QB, you hit the 8-win total. Did you even think about that?
What did I predict? 8-4. I didn't count the bowl game, but I think I said 8-4. Yeah, so they won 8 games.
Okay, so you're right. Regular season, you said 8-4. It was 7-5. Okay, could have been 8-4, and then you said 8 wins. So they got 8 wins. That bowl game counts as far as I'm concerned. If they didn't play, then it wouldn't matter, but they played, so it counts. And, the season, the teams that they're going to play next year are the exact same teams they played this year, except for a few non-conference games. That'll be different. And, you're going to have, instead of 4 SEC matchups here, you'll have to play them on the road. But you'll get Tennessee, Texas, and State coming to Gainesville next year. So, and Florida State. So.
Yeah. Chris has a good question here from Cottondale on the Titan MR text line. Jane, wanted to ask you a question about offense. I saw where someone was comparing the Heupel offense to the Gus Malzahn offense and the way that Gus had 5 to 7 good years and it fizzled out. There are feelings that Heupel and his offense could be in the same boat. Is it offense or is it Heupel's QBs bringing down the offense? Because it was way better when Hendon Hooker was there 2 years ago. I think it's a combination of both. It's a great question. I'm not a huge fan of their offense. The key is the quarterback's got to complete passes. Their guy can't do that. He can't do that at a high level. Hendon Hooker was also a pretty good runner. He had a good feel. He's a smart player. For their offense to work, the QB it's imperative to have one that knows what they're doing. I think Tennessee. I'm mad at myself thinking Tennessee could beat Ohio State after I watched Tennessee in person.
Yes, yes, your fault, QB. You saw that team. That's right.
Yeah. And I have not really watched Ohio State. I just kind of got bought into the whole how they lost to Michigan. But I will tell you this.
Yeah.
The fastest team I saw in person this year were the Texas Longhorns, and I still think they're the fastest team in America.
They are. I mean, the way they run around those guys on the edge with angles and just a simple speed factor on the field. I think Texas, I'm wearing my Texas hat right now because I didn't bring the other ones that I was going to wear on this trip to Biloxi. So I had this hat on and I just kept it on. Texas is, everybody wants to talk about how well they haven't beaten anybody, this, that. Listen, man, if you watch football and you look at talent on the field, they match up with just about almost everybody else, Oregon included. And I think that, if Ewers is healthy and Sark gets to do the things that he wants to do and Ewers is able to execute that and not be a statue in the pocket, then don't tell me Texas can't beat anybody that's still left out there. And the SEC, okay, so they had 3 teams go in. Tennessee looked like crap. But Georgia and Texas are going to carry the flag in this playoff. They're going to each probably win the next game and be in semifinal games, which means we could set up for potentially maybe another Georgia-Texas redo, number 3 of the year. I mean, it could work out that way, QB. So don't count out the SEC yet, folks.
Oh, I'm definitely not. I don't think Texas wants to play Georgia, though, because I think the line of scrimmage is where Georgia just wears them out. We've seen it in 2 games.
Yeah.
I don't have the bracket in front of me. I don't know if that will.
I don't either. I just said that. Yeah, I said that out loud. But they should both win in their quarterfinal game. That puts them both in semifinal games, and I don't think they would play each other in the semifinals. So I think there's a chance. I think Texas is on top of the bracket with Arizona State, and Georgia's on the bottom of the bracket playing Notre Dame winner to play Penn State. Yeah, they would play in the finals because I'm just thinking of it at the top of my head. Georgia's down there at the bottom playing Notre Dame. Let's say they win. They then get the Penn State Boise winner, and Texas is going to play at the top. They get Arizona State with the winner to play the Ohio State Oregon winner. So they would have a chance to play in the finals for the third time this year, which would be crazy. I don't know if a lot of people would want to see that, frankly. But I think the SEC is going to have one of them, either Texas or Georgia, at the very least, will be in the final game. That's a prediction. It's not a fact, but it's a prediction. And I think both will. Listen, the odds makers do not have Georgia moving that much on their spreads with their quarterback as opposed to Beck. That kid that's playing is not making the odds makers really adjust much more than maybe a few points on their lines, is what I was told or saw, I should say. And so Carson Beck's got the experience, but this kid can show that he can get the ball down the field and win the game and get the ball in the end zone if needed. And he takes a lot of hits, and he's maybe not as good a passer, but he's a very active guy back there. And those kinds of players give your team a chance. When you have somebody like that playing as opposed to Nico Iamaleava, who sits back there with a deer in the headlights type of look, looking for someone to throw the ball because he's too afraid to pull the trigger on some of those hot routes or whatever comes across, it's a big, big problem because those defensive linemen are going to eventually overtake the offensive lineman, and he's going to end up running for his life like Jennings did at SMU. These guys just stood back there. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't have anybody open, apparently, and they took sacks and run for their life all day. I don't think that's going to be a problem with the Georgia guy. I just don't.
No. Andy's question on Facebook Live brought to you by Mel Law. Would you yank Quinn Ewers for Arch Manning if they are 10 points down on Arizona State? First of all, they're not going to be down to Arizona State.
Well,
Arizona State's walking into it buzzsaw. Ewers is a very good player. To me, he's still not healthy. They keep talking about that ankle injury, and he wears his brace. You can tell in his footwork in the pocket that he is not 100%. But no, I would ride Ewers. I think it's dumb that they bring Arch Manning in for these short yardage run situations.
I do too.
It's really dumb.
I don't like that either, QB. I was saying the same thing to my sons. What is he? Everybody knows what he's going to do. Everybody's got. It's like they know exactly what's coming. So what's the point of doing that? I agree with you. I don't like that whole situation.
JC, I'm going to answer this on you after you answer. Sean says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel, Georgia will have problems with Notre Dame because they have a running quarterback.
Georgia will have problems with Notre Dame because they have. Well, Notre Dame's got a good defense. There's no question. They're stout on the lines of scrimmage. But
he's talking about Georgia against Notre Dame's offense.
I know. I'm thinking Georgia against Notre Dame's offense. Well, running quarterback.
He says Georgia will have problems with Notre Dame because they have a running quarterback.
Oh.
I will answer the question first.
Well, I thought you were talking about Georgia.
Riley Leonard. I like Riley Leonard a lot. He is no Jalen Milroe or Jaden Daniels. Let's just leave it at that.
No, he's not. I'm sorry. I misunderstood what he was saying. I thought he was talking about Georgia's quarterback. Okay. Well, no. Riley Leonard, I think since he left Duke, he's actually kind of regressed a little bit.
I agree.
Passing the football. And I don't think you're going to – Lamar Jackson's not going to run on the Georgia Bulldogs for that matter. Nobody really runs. Now, Jalen Milroe had some success, but that's different. That's Alabama. It's a whole different everything. This is I think Georgia's going to be just fine with Riley Leonard, and Kirby's going to take away what Riley does best, right? That's what the Belichick formula for winning is on defense. You take away the other team's strength, and Riley's going to have to beat them through the air, and I don't like their chances there, QB.
Oh, I don't either. I think Georgia wins that game for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a lot of people. Barone here is very upset at the Mighty Gator offense. He says he was talking about how that game should have never been close. Look, it wouldn't have been close, but DJ threw 2 interceptions in the end zone, right?
Yes, he did.
If you score there,
Rusty.
we had 529 yards of offense. We ran for 224 and threw for 305.
224.
And yes, it's Tulane, but I don't know. And let me just say something. I am pretty sure majority of the game that was called was Russ Callaway the other day. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm pretty sure about it. So, but 529 yards is a lot of offense.
Yeah,
no matter who you're playing against, right?
Yeah, that's a lot of offense. That's
if you don't turn it over in the end zone twice, the game would not have been close at the beginning.
I mean, but nobody was threatened by Tulane. I mean, whether he turned it over in the end zone or not, everybody knew they were going to win and cover. Great teams cover, by the way. So yeah, I get what he's saying, but listen, man, they hadn't played in 3 weeks, whatever it was, for 2 weeks. I wasn't worried. I wasn't at all.
Okay, so Lee says this on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Stats show that DJ was less effective in passing with dropping 8 or no blitzing during the regular season, so Tulane was effective during the first half as Billy and DJ didn't adjust. That's not true. First of all, you don't adjust when the ball is snapped. They're showing a blitz look, and they drop 8 into coverage. It's the quarterback's job to read it correctly and don't force it, right? And then if they do blitz, get them over the top. So, look, if you're going to be a Gator fan, Billy Napier is your coach. And what you have seen is what you're going to see moving forward. You should be happy right now with what you've seen. You won 4 straight games, right?
Yeah.
I thought we played pretty good. I had no problem with the plan. And I love offensive football. I had no problem with the way we called the game against Tulane. None. So, and then Lee says too many missed blocking assignments on the right side because our 2 starters were out. Okay? 2 starters, the right guard and the right tackle did not play in this game. Okay? It's over with. You won the game. And it's the off season.
Well, and they won the game by 30 points with what Kevin Brockway says was a C in terms of performances. If you grade A, B, C, D, or E, or F, he gave them a C. I don't care. Hey, let me tell you another thing. This kid Livingston didn't look too shabby. I think he's got some real potential. Do you like Tony Livingston, QB?
Yeah, I mean, he's just like all the other tight ends. I mean, they're all the same to me. Him and Hayden Hansen played. Him and Hayden Hansen played majority of the last part of the season. Yeah, I don't get excited about tight ends. I want fast guys.
Yeah, you do. But Livingston looked a little bit more agile, maybe, than, say, Boardingham has looked during the year. I don't know. Give him a shot.
Well, Boardingham transferred.
Oh, I know. I'm saying during the year when we watched Boardingham the last 2 years, okay, he did fine. But I think Livingston could actually move. I think he's a little bit more agile. I think we're going to see some nice things out of this kid, Tony Livingston, if he stays right during the offseason. And hopefully maybe Billy can. I see QB. You don't like the tight end, but I think the tight end in an offense is very effective if you've got a good one. And,
no, I love a tight end. I was kind of joking, but my point to the story is,
all right.
Everybody loved Arliss Boardingham the last 2 years. They said he's the next Kyle Pitts. Right. Then he struggled blocking, and so they put him on the bench. Now he's transferring.
Yeah.
Like I said,
right.
Are these different? Is Tony Livingstone a difference maker in the passing game? Probably not.
Well,
he caught a flat route, JC, that nobody was out there.
I know. It's just sometimes you watch these new players play, you either really like them or he's like, whatever. I don't know. I kind of like it. We'll see. Listen, we got a long time before the next football game is played around here. So just be happy with the way it finished. This was a great finish to a season that, was teetering on calamity. Let's just be honest. It was going the wrong way at the beginning. And the way it ended not only got Billy off that hot seat, but when Strickland gave Billy that vote of confidence, which some people say is a scary thing, but when he got that, and it took away all the question marks about what was going to happen by the end of the year. And they just got to focus on what his job was, and that was getting the team ready to win football games. That's what they did. And they won those games. That LSU and Ole Miss game, those were the highlights of this season. They clearly were the highlights of this season, those 2 games in November. So it's a long year, and folks have to remember not to overreact sometimes at the beginning of the year. But it was so close to coming off the hinges. And yet they pulled it together. You have to give them credit if you're going to criticize them when times are bad. You have to give them some sort of credit for the way they rebounded and didn't quit. They didn't give up. Those players did not quit on their coach. And I thought that was the biggest theme to this year, was that this is a team that lost their starting quarterback, could have just thrown in the towel and bailed. And the guys never quit playing for him. And they never quit. And DJ came through the way most people expected and hoped he would. And that's the theme of the year, is that this team was resilient and came through and won 8 freaking games when after the A&M game was played, you weren't sure they were going to win 4. So give them credit, man. Let's quit being negative about so many things. When you win 8 games and you were expected to win 4, you have to be happy. Maybe next year you win 10 or 12. Who knows? But let's just be satisfied with the way it ended. That's the way I'm going to look at it. You guys can do what you want. I was a big critic, and I was thinking this ship is sinking like the Titanic. And damn if they didn't pull it up out of the water and keep it floating, and they did. So you have to acknowledge that if you're a real supporter. If you're not, then go figure out what they're going to do in Tallahassee, because that's a bigger problem if you think about it. So I feel good about the whole way it's ended.
I just think, football is very hard. Nobody's ever played a perfect game. You're going to turn the ball over. You're going to miss blocks. You're going to miss tackles. You're going to miss field goals. That's part of the game. I mean, that's just reality. Rob says, with the logic that Pitts would have never existed at UF, he's a terrible blocker. Sometimes you play to your strengths. Well, they didn't ask him to block in Dan Mullen's offense. And he would struggle in what they asked the tight end to do in this offense. So, JC, here's a text on the Titan More text line. Kevin says, Florida ended the season 10-3 against the spread. Are you aware of that?
I do know Florida was very proficient against the number, and as the shirt says that I'm going to get printed, that I was kind of hoping you would get for me, that I'll get the order in after the show maybe. You can get that for my New Year's Day present. Great teams cover. So, yes. Or good teams.
Great team. Good teams. Say it again. What you're saying?
My saying should be on my shirt that you're going to get for me. Great teams cover, or you can make it good teams cover. But great teams go 10-3. That's pretty great for a team like that in the SEC. Yeah, great teams cover. Florida's 10-3. Like that. I mean, that's what people.
Yeah, everybody's on here. Everybody's commenting on YouTube about our freshman tight end Jackson, number 7. That's the one that they like a lot.
Great teams cover. Great teams cover. 10-3. Vegas loves the Gators. Everybody going into that Tulane game put their Christmas presents on the Gators to cover against Tulane. That was a big spread. They covered easily. Great. Ohio State, easy cover. Penn State, easy cover. It was a home team cover weekend. Texas, it wasn't an easy cover, but they still covered a double-digit spread. And then you had the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, easy cover, QB. So we get this.
Didn't they only win by 10?
Yeah, that's true. They only won by 10 because Indiana got a trash touchdown at the end, but they still covered. And they still covered. That game was never in doubt. It's never in doubt. Neither was the spread. And now we're going to, we've got the also-rans away from the situation. Now we've got 8 left, and I think they're all, I don't know what Arizona State and Boise State are capable of doing. They're going to run into some very difficult teams, but I don't think they'll be scared of them. Arizona State's probably one of the most confident teams in the country, QB, with that Dillingham coaching now and Scattaboo running all over the place. He's hard to deal with. Texas is going to be in for a fight, but I expect Texas to win. They should win. Yeah.
31 in Burr says, did you mention Dallas Wilson committing to the Gators? Yes. He signed, sealed, and delivered to the Gators. So, I mentioned that at the beginning of the show.
Florida player now. That's right. Florida's 10. Right, I saw a number where Florida was ahead of Miami and FSU, obviously, for 4 stars and rankings on, I think it was on 3 or something, but they're 10th in the country, dude. They were down there in 50th something, whatever, a month ago.
No, we're 10th, but we're 10th in the country, but like 7th or 8th in the SEC, something like that. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
But again, I don't follow recruiting, so I probably gave that a wrong stat, but it's something right now.
He's getting a player.
All right, this day in sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life. Campus USA Credit Union. JC, this day in 1972, the Immaculate Reception. Remember that?
Oh, I sure do. I watched it. I saw it happen.
Yep. Steelers turned around a 7-6 deficit.
Yeah.
With the last-second touchdown reception against the Raiders to win 13-7. Franco Harris.
Franco caught the ball, but the guy who put the hit on, I think it was Stallworth, was Jack Tatum. They called him the Black Assassin, and he was the most violent player you've ever seen in your life. And he wouldn't be able to play in today's game. He would be suspended, fined, whatever, out of the world. He wouldn't be able to play like he played that in those days. He was a different animal. He was so good. and so nasty it's scary. Jack Tatum. But yes, Franco was there. The rest is history. Steelers beat
All
the
right, before we get you out of here, what do you think Vegas sets the win total for the Gators next year at?
I think Vegas will stick them at the 8.5, 8. I think
you do.
I think we're looking at 8. Yeah. Don't
wow.
you? You don't?
I think it'll be 7 at tops.
Well, okay, 7. I think it'll be 8 because I think Vegas is buying in to Florida.
Well, we have more road games than we did last year, JC.
Right. No, there's 4. Yes,
they had it at 4.5, but I don't know.
They didn't know
schedule. Now again,
they didn't know Lagway. They don't now. They know Lagway. They didn't know him last year when they set the number. They know him now.
Yeah, I still don't know if it'll be 8 or 8.5 or 9, like you said. I hope it is, but
I think it could be very easily. I mean, I think it absolutely could be. I don't see why Florida State's going to be any better. Maybe they'll get some better players, but I listen. I think it's a real optimistic offseason for Florida fans. I mean, you have to take the rest of what you saw, take it for the rest of the next 9 months.
Well, obviously, a lot of these people listening today ain't real optimistic. They've been complaining about the damn Tulane win.
Well, listen, folks. And by the way, Marissa from Italy, thank you for watching it, Marissa. Marissa says, QB, take your wife to Italy and you'll be married forever. Italy is where you want to go. She's got a spot here. It's on YouTube, folks. Scroll down and look for Marissa's. She says, from Palazzo Fuji, outside of Rome. You all need to bring your wives here if you want to earn big-time bonus points. There you go, QB. Bonus points for you. You need bonus points.
Yeah, I do not care about traveling that far.
Yes.
Better things to do.
Right. Well, anyway. So, listen, you got to give it to somebody who's on the other side of the earth, 6.5, 7 hours away, watching you and I talk about the Gators and football. And I give her a lot of credit for chiming in. That means she's in Italy thinking about you, QB. Think about that. So that's great. Everybody enjoy your Christmas. We're not going to be here Wednesday, but, make it very happy. Wear your orange and blue and go buy some Gator stuff for Christmas and feel excited about this basketball team. We haven't touched on that today, but my God, we're getting ready for SEC, this SEC season here soon. And you remember, the season is about playing for a seed in the tournament in March. So don't get too high when they're running off people. And don't get too low when they get beat on the road at Arkansas. Don't lose your minds, okay? Basketball is a whole different animal. You're playing the regular season to seed yourself in the big dance. And Florida will be there. And that is a good basketball team. So there's a lot of things to be optimistic about. As a Florida fan, as a Florida Gator alumni and booster, you have to be excited for what your football team finished doing and what your basketball team is about to do. And then we've got baseball. Everybody loves baseball. My goodness. And softball, everybody loves softball. I mean, I sound like I work at the PR department at UF, which is about the furthest thing from reality. I do not, but I see reality. And the reality is you got a lot to look forward to if you're a Florida faithful and a Gator fan. So get excited about it. Have a great Christmas and New Year, and we'll see you on Friday.
All right, JC. That's JC. Join us on the Titan Number Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Take a quick time out, come back. We'll wrap up the show with some of your questions, calls, and comments here.
There's Carmen.
You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Y'all go to Italy. Have fun.
There's Carmen Toto. I'm glad I got you on there.
Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Crime Prevention Security System, Titan MRI, Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, Dave & Buster's, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute, JF Hayden Craft Liqueurs, Bishop's Pitmaster Barbecue, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Los Linderos Tequila. Gridiron sponsors are Baker Sporting Goods, Cogent Bank, Comfort Temp, Electronics World, Florida Victorious, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Mills Cheesesteak, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Signs, Gator Bait Media, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, Nest and Wow, MG&A Wealth Management, Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor, call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
Unleash the Inferno.
With time running out, the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier, shares a play to score the perfect last-minute Christmas gift.
Spurrier's Gridiron gift cards are on sale for 20% off between December 17 and December 24. You can go to spurriers.com and order a digital card or stop by my restaurant in Celebration Point and pick some up today. Use the code GC20 and get 20% off. That's right, 20% off gift cards with code GC20.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. For sprains, strains, and minor fractures, UF Health Ortho Care makes it convenient for you 7 days a week, including evenings. Walk-ins are welcome. Go check them out at UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Okay, we got a couple of things I want to get to here. Remember, folks, today and Friday are the only programs. We'll run some reruns. If you really want to tune in and watch, feel free to check those out. Mark says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Pond, we'll see how good the basketball team is when they start the SEC schedule. North Florida's hardly it. Well, look, Mark, they've beaten everybody on their schedule. They destroyed everybody. Had a good game against North Carolina, blew a huge lead and found a way to win. Everybody knows North Florida. They were missing their best player, by the way. But this basketball team is outstanding. And they're going to lose probably 4 or 5 games in the conference, like everybody. It's just too difficult. There'll probably be 12 or 13 teams from the SEC that make the NCAA tournament. It's the best basketball league in America, for sure. All right, let me get a couple of these texts here. Where'd it go here? Frank says, how will the Gators approach getting DJ to improve playing against zone defenses? A lot of teams don't play a whole lot of zone, Frank. You would think zone is easy, but a lot of DBs and linebackers have trouble against playing zone. But teams are going to mix it up. I mean, look, he's young. Some guys just, they target one or two guys, and then that brings other defenders into the area, and that's when you throw interceptions. But he was trying to make a play the other day down on the goal line and forced a couple of throws, and you're going to see that. But he does so many other things well. Just live and learn with it. He is going to throw interceptions. We've seen that. Every quarterback throws interceptions. I know we talked about Kevin Brockway giving them a C. He's probably referring to a lot of that has to do with you gave away points. You had opportunities for easy points there, and due to the interception to get any points. But I thought for the most part, offensively, we were pretty good the other day. And again, Tulane's quarterback was just, man, he was bad. Very, very bad quarterback. And this text from, I think it's from Kevin here, said North Florida beat South Carolina this year. Yeah, they've beaten 2 really good Power 5 teams, but they played us, I think, without their best player. But look, we are so good in basketball. If you can't see that, or don't know that, you have not watched us play. Josh wants to know what I'm getting my grandson for Christmas. He's getting nothing. At this age, he's got enough stuff. We'll just put some money into his account for when he gets older. Take care of him that way. Text here on the Titan and Mark text line. This is from Jimmy. He says, Shane, what do you think happened to the Buffalo Bills yesterday? Well, I didn't see any of that game. They didn't play well. Obviously, it was a close game, closer than most people thought. But that's football, man. It's hard to do it week in and week out. That's why, I'm in the minority, I guess, about the college football playoffs. I didn't care that the games got out of hand. You just don't know what's going to happen. And as the stats that I gave y'all, the 14 playoffs, the first rounds have been out of hand year in and year out. I mean, think about the national championship games that have gotten out of hand. Georgia destroyed TCU by like 60 points. Think about when the Gators beat Ohio State, when the Gators beat Florida State. They were blowouts. So not every game is going to be competitive. Sometimes you just don't have your best and the other team does. And it doesn't bother me one bit because, like I told you, you watch the NFL playoffs. I gave you the stats. Last year, the NFL playoffs first round, it was like 16 points margin of victory. So Mark wants to know, do you think Lagway's hamstring is fully healed? No, I do not. I still don't think they're going to call a bunch of runs for him next year, though, when he is healthy. I think he's more of a passer and just kind of a runner. That's just my two thoughts. There are many car washes in Gainesville, but only one Gallo car wash, locally owned by a UF alum and the only car wash that provides NIL opportunities to Gator athletes. With 3 locations, go check them out. That's Gallo Car Wash. Again, we'll do a show on Friday. We'll have Brent Beard here. We'll kind of talk about some of the bowl games. I'm looking forward to the next round of the playoffs. Should be a lot of fun. I think most people are looking forward to that Georgia-Notre Dame game. Should be really good, as well as Ohio State-Oregon rematch in the Rose Bowl. Ohio State, most people say Ohio State has the best roster in college football. They spent a lot of money on it. But boy, do they play well. It's hard to believe how they played against Tennessee compared to how they played against Michigan, but that's sports. That's how it happens. Hope everybody has a great Christmas. Again, we'll be back here on Friday, and we'll recap a lot of games between now and then. Have a great holiday, folks. We'll see you on Friday. Take care.